Hello and hi, my name is Connor. 今日の動画ではの bone-born bomb について話してます. So first off, I should probably say, this is not really something that's quite in my wheelhouse because I don't really do mainstream J-pop album reviews. However, this is kind of verging into punk, a little hardcore, hyperpop, and also, just rock in general. So I'm like, sure, I can, formulate thoughts and opinions about this. I think if you watch a lot of my videos, you know that I really like artsy-fartsy albums, whereas this Ano album is very much mainstream pop, rock, mass appeal kind of music. And that's, of course, not to say that Ano's music isn't art in any way. Of course it is. It's just not the art that I normally consume myself. What I will say, though, is that I do actually like her side project band, which is called Eyes. Despite that, though, I'm not really a fan of her solo material, and I think in a way you could almost call me a hater. Not like I hate her or her music, it's just I just don't want to listen to it. With me saying that, you might be wondering, well, why are you here talking about this album? Well, that's because as it stands, I actually like a lot of the music on here, even if I still am not really considering it music for me or music that I am normally interested in. Okay, and with that out of the way, I think we can start talking about the actual music now. So hi, have you heard of Ano? Well, everyone else has. She is extremely popular. I sort of see Ano more as an actual product and less of just a celebrity. She has a podcast, she has a radio show, she's also constantly making TV appearances, she has lots of albums, lots of collaborations with all kinds of companies. She is everywhere. Mainly though, it does seem like she is more of a musical artist than an actual actress. And so for that reason, she kind of exists more in the music realm of the Japan entertainment industry. And so I think because of that, she has a lot of connections, and because of that, we get a lot of inspirations from all over on this album, and there are a lot of guest appearances on here too. Like, for example, there are 3 specific songs that I think she is really honing the energy off of another band on that song. I think that makes sense. Example number 1, there is one song on here called Just the Two of Us in the World, and that to me sounds a lot like Shinsei Kamate-chan, which I like that, sounds awesome. There is another song on here called Swim in Sleeping Tokyo, and that sounds very much like Anorak to me. So again, love that. And then the final song is titled Past Die Future, and this sounds a lot like Ningang Boys, or Ningang Boys. I never get it right. I've seen them live and I still don't get it right. I love them, or him, however you want to conceptualize that. Moreover, I think it is a fantastic closing song to the album too. And so while we're on this topic, let's talk about some of those collaborators too. Like for example, that very first song is actually written by TK, ya boy. So that is super, super very cool. Then on the song Aishiteru Nante ne, we actually get Kenmochi Hirefumi from Wensei Campanella as a guest producer on that song. So I just love his work, and I've talked about that in many videos on my channel. So hearing this and having him on there is really, really cool for me. There's also another song on this album, which is titled Kono Sekai ni Futari Dake, and that is co-written by Regal Lily. They also performed the instrumental for this song too. So that is basically just one of their own songs with Ano at the forefront. So I also love that a lot too. That's so cool. And then that final song, which I mentioned earlier, which is called Past Die Future, is also co-written by and also performed by her side project Eyes. So hey, I like them and they're all here. So love that. So kind of in a way, this feels like a real collaborative effort of an album, which I am very happy for. And I say that because I just don't like Ano on her own all that much, but because there are so many other artists on here that I do like and love, it really just kind of combines into this overwhelming force of very familiar music for me in particular. And I think that was a fantastic idea because now that has made Ano's music, which I've just never really gotten into, a lot more palatable and also a lot more enjoyable, and also makes me now want to check out some of her other stuff. So the instrumentals and production on this album, I think they're really cool and really good. And I don't think I would say more than that. I don't think I can give it more praise than that. I think it's suitable and also fairly nice to actually listen to. I would really say that the production really suits her style of singing and music and just kind of look and aesthetic. And I think that's all just very well done. On top of that too, I would say that the general vibe for this album is sort of non-serious, dangerous, or mysterious, where she's trying to act very tough and very rowdy and very punkish. But of course, given her look and her voice, it really comes off as the opposite of that, which is of course very much on purpose because that's kind of her whole character, right? I would say that this album really leans into kind of idol pop territory, just with a very heavy emphasis on rock and also punk music, and also a little bit of like light metal too, just like a tinge. One other thing I want to mention is that I think this album flows and is sequenced extremely well. The album has a very explosive start, which just kind of continues into the middle section, and then also it just winds down really well too. Now, I don't really have a lot of negatives to say about this album. One thing that I need to point out, which is why I don't really enjoy Ano's music all that much, is just because I'm not really a fan of her very high-pitched kind of anime kawaii voice. That's just not for me. No artist has ever really hooked me with that sort of shtick. Now, what I will say is that there are some songs here where she is using a much more natural sounding voice that is a little deeper, and honestly, I think I like those a lot. And also too, I wish she sang like that a lot more often, but of course, like I keep saying, she is kind of playing a character, so I get it. They use a lot of post-processing on her voice just all over this album. As much as I love that final song, Past I Future, she is kind of unintentionally sounding very robotic and metallic and stiff because of that post-processing, and that's just not a sound that I ever really like. I have also mentioned that in some of my other reviews too, and honestly, I think that's all of the negatives I really have to speak on for this album. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I really enjoyed this album a lot more than I thought I would. I think ultimately this project has a lot more merit than a lot of other massive peel Japanese pop albums, and that is so cool. And I think that's primarily because it is so heavily leaning into rock and metal and punk, and that just speaks to me a lot more than a lot of other Japanese mainstream pop albums. Oh my god, there are just some I cannot stand and I will never listen to ever, and I'm never gonna call out who those people are because I don't want to make them feel bad. So with all that said, I am going to rate this album a 7 out of 10. I think that is completely fair, and that is what I feel in my heart. I mainly rate it so high just because I think it's such a fun album. I usually have it on in the background as I'm doing something else, and honestly, it is nice and upbeat, and I think it is generally just a nice passive listen. And yeah, I just think it's really fun sounding music that isn't trying to be much more than that, though of course, there are some moments where it is trying to be more than that, and I applaud her for that, and that is why I gave it that 7 out of 10. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you had any other thoughts on this album. Maybe you did. Maybe you are a proper Ano fan, and you can tell me what I'm missing. I don't think I'm missing much. I just don't think she's really for me. But despite that, like I said, I like this album. And so yeah, I guess I will see you in the next one. Bye.